I have just a couple of things to say, like, about kind of about what you have architecture. And you guys, I agree with everything you said, but I'm not gonna say it again. For Pete, when you started diagramming the shoe lanes on the bottom, you had talked about, the space in the bottom, or where you have like your sweatshops. And I think like the next step I'd like to see you take is to kind of integrate that spot, this piece right here, like up into the rest of the building, because you have a lot of these spaces, and now like programmatically, like you have to figure out like what they mean, you know? And it's like a lot of times about, you know, trial and error, like the professor was saying, like you're not always gonna get it right on the first time. But I think if you if you continue the project, like just see like different like ways that maybe the shoelace can start penetrating this and you get different views or something like that. So more like, I guess, programmatically. For Stephanie, I think that the way that your concept started to like translate into a building was great. You thought about it how you wanted to plan. Maybe this next step for you is try and like now think about it in section. If you can get the building to read in plan as read, which I think is great, and you explained yourself very well. Now let's see what like your sections should become like as interesting as your plans. So just think, and like we had talked about like how the rooms and everything were going to be up in scale and make you feel like a certain way. And I think that's very important in all the projects, and how architecture makes you feel like the architecture can make somebody feel a certain way. And in your building, I think that you try to do that, so it really nice just to carry it through like in planning sections. Oh, and also, well, that's kind of conceptual. And then Kelly, I think burning model, I haven't seen that part that you were doing, but that's great, and that's like what every architecture student wants to do anyway. So maybe having some kind of, I'm going to grab this from your presentation, like a taxonomy. Like if you start with a square and burn it 3 times and see if there's a pattern. And start with another like type of shape that was in there, burn it 3 times and see if there's a pattern, and then try and put them back together. It's like a little more developing. And like you started to hear, and it's really nice. But like now, how do you translate something so abstract and random into programmatic spaces that have like these connections? You know, you have very linear architects that build like very typical connections, and you have people like Frank Gehry who have every single different connection and who makes them up themselves. So that's something we might want to explore if we continue this together as well. And Kristen, I really liked your site relationship. I think that diagrammatically you related it very strongly. Criticism of our plan, that's one of those. I just feel like you took it, yeah, well, you know, but you took it like directly from the site, and I think for everybody, if you guys saw her site relationships, that's like, you know, in the next years too, that's something that you have to get into and know how to diagram that correctly. So, I mean, she did it pretty well here.
Yeah, I totally agree, because context totally matters.
Yeah.
What's next to it as well as what it is. So. I mean, I'd also say that, like, hold on to your first year stuff, because like 5 years, 10 years down the line, you look back and you're like, oh, I think this is working. So it's always good to like remember where you started from.
Pete, I thought your commentary on the red hooks is very important function. It was very nice and it was very developed. I was very impressed with your first two. And Kristen, I thought as your building ended up being very beautiful, and it was very appropriate for the neighborhood we lived in. Like it being like this hodgepodge of like this like kind of like, you know, derelict the structures and like IKEA, right, and all that stuff. And Tiffany, I agree with me? Yes. Yeah, like I really like your line diagram and like your language, like the elevations that you came up with was very like clean, and I was very impressed with, you know, and Kelly, I really liked your model, amazing. I kind of remind me of like Sago Chan, the fire drawings. Very nice. But in the end, like I was very impressed with everything you guys came up with. In the end, maybe like if you want to take it the next step further, like maybe you want to think about the demographics of the area, like how like the neighborhood is kind of industrial, but at the same time, there are all these like kind of hip, like rich people moving in, like, you know, how it's changing and like what will attract them to your specific museum, why, you know, why they should come visit your museum and visit it. You should kind of address that.
Okay, I thought you guys were great. I have a lot of positive stuff here, which I don't waste your time with, but, I thought, Peter, I guess I just have some questions for you guys. You have this quote that says materialism is breaking out of the box of reality.
Yeah.
And what do you think of the idea of switching that around and reality breaking out of the box of materialism? Do you think that applies to your project?
How do you switch it to the last? I guess I'd have to think about that.
Because I always associated your project more to that. You know, you have this exterior that sort of retains the glossy image of the sneaker, and then buried deep within that, you have the reality. I guess just in the basement, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought that was interesting that you had you actually created architecture that was designed. I thought that was very good for the subversive goal, that you created architecture that was designed to make people uncomfortable, like 8-foot ceilings and et cetera. I thought that was really interesting to be aspiring to do that intentionally in, you know, the Western world on a large scale. It's definitely subversive and very cool, I think. I had a question about, so the model is sort of a sneaker and then you break down the whole process, or is it just about sort of industry in general?
Well, I mean, yeah, it turned out that it wasn't actually like, my design in the beginning was like more related to like the shape of the shoe. And then
Yeah.
at the end it didn't. It was more about just materialism and breaking out of the
Right.
box or whatever.
Using sneakers as the example
Yeah,
also?
exactly, yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right. I was thinking, my only thing about that was maybe, I think that's cool, I like that, but I'm thinking maybe like, to what extent do sneakers relate? I think you relate to them personally, but as far as the neighborhood goes,
Well, that was the
Were they-
the site diagram with like, you know, you have the track there, you have
Yeah.
the basketball courts, and then the shipment of goods on the other side.
right.
You know, I thought that kind of brought that together.
Yeah, I see how that relates. I'm thinking maybe if you maybe broke it out and demonstrated the whole process with, you know, industries that have actually existed in Red Hook, or industries that do exist in Red Hook now, you know, like something like, if there was a huge sneaker factory in Red Hook, I think that'd be really interesting, you know, I'm not like,
Well, I try to relate like the grain terminal to like the sneaker factory, as like
Yeah.
this grain terminal's bringing all the grain in.
yeah,
you know,
you're using
relating
it
that.
as a symbol,
Yeah.
and that probably applies. That was just something I was thinking, but I see what you're saying, I think that's cool. But yeah, I thought that was great. The Children's Museum I thought was really cool. I loved the way that you created by playing. I love the idea behind that, you know, I think it was so cool. Like, you have a whole process, a whole theory of sort of creative process that you created in this project, and, you know, that's the dream, you know, so that's cool. You've got like a real handle on your creative process at a really, you know, early stage in your career. Yeah, and you incorporated it into the building in a really great way. I think, I don't know, I guess the only criticism I might say is, you know, maybe, you know, you fit in the streets, and you fit, maybe there's, you know, you had this sort of dichotomy between order and randomness, and maybe you give in a little bit too much to order and reason, you know, since you're trying to be so whimsical and playful and sort of, you know, reintroduce this whimsical, childish attitude.
Well, that's